Okie, I'll tell you, I'm traveling all over the country doing this. You can really get depressed. I try not to. I try to have a sense of humor about this because we are going to win this thing, and we're doing it, and we're turning this thing all upside down. So, but let's hear what it's about. Okay. So here's who was on the President's Council of Sustainable Development. Here's who thought they were going to pull the wool over your eyes for the rest of your life. All those 12 cabinet-level secretaries, right? All those federal agencies. Along with them, captains of industry, primarily energy people like Ken Lay from Enron. You had Dow Chemical on there, a bunch of them. Also, you had environmental groups, nonprofit groups like the Natural Resources Defense Council, the Sierra Club. Now, you weren't in there, and you didn't know anything about it, okay? It's a stealth plan, and it happens in plain sight. So what did they do? First thing they did was they said, hey, we want to implement Agenda 21 across the United States. Now, we're going to change all of our own policies administratively, and they did. All of those agencies changed their policies to implement Agenda 21 administratively. They said, we want to get this into every single little town, county, and state in the U.S. We're going to use land use documents, land use planning. That's how we're going to do it. We said, and they said to the American Planning Association, they said, hey, will you guys help us out? We want a book. We want something we can give to. We want to get this into every university. We want to get it into every planning department in the entire United States. And they did. They came up with this. Now, this is just the cover. It's a 12-pound book, 2 volumes. It's called Growing Smart, Legislative Guidebook with Model Statutes for Planning and the Management of Change. Change. The management of change. By 2002, this was in every single planning department and university in the nation. That's when I started to notice that there was a planning revolution going on, because I'm an appraiser. And I'll tell you about that in a minute. But here's what else happened. They said, okay, we're going to get this in every university. We're going to get it into every town and county and city and every state. But you know, the people aren't going to like it too much when they figure out that they've been bamboozled, when they've been led around by the nose by us and not told that this is going on. So we need to bring the people on board. We need to get the people to think that this is all their idea. We want everybody to think that this is their plan. Yeah. So what did they do? They came up with another book. It's called Sustainable America, A New Consensus. Now, you know, I'm sure you've heard consensus now, that word ad nauseum. But you know the real consensus is if all of us got together, okay, we're going to close the doors, we're going to sit in here all night, we're all going to hear each other out, we're going to talk about something we want to do here in Dover. And we're going to work it out, we're going to hear from everybody, we're going to work out something that we can all agree with. That's consensus. Agreement of all parties. That's real consensus. But no. Sustainable America, a new consensus. What is that? Neutralization of the opposition. Neutralizing your enemies. Yeah. Now, how do they do that? That's a new consensus. They use a Rand Corporation mind control technique on you. They use it all across the United States. We've got a huge country. You hardly know what's happening next door to you. You don't know that this is happening not just in every town in New Hampshire, but across the United States and the world. They use the Rand Corporation technique where they Delphi you, which is that they bring groups of people, it could be just one person, all the way to the entire world, which they are Delphing the entire world right now. This is what the public relations scam is about. It's a Delphi technique. They bring a group of people to a preconceived, predetermined outcome while giving them the impression that it was all their idea. Come on down and give us your opinion of Dover 2023. We want to know what you think about this great new plan for the center of your town. It's the same plan that you'll see all across the United States and the world. It's the same plan. Neutralizing the opposition. Now, this is communitarianism, right? They say that people are more afraid of being disapproved of by their neighbors than they are of being physically injured. And that gives you all sorts of fun thoughts, but the idea, you know, of how scary it is, really, to stand up when you're in a group of people and to say, hey, I don't like this. This isn't right. This is not the thing that I want to see here in my town, and my voice has weight. I am an individual here in my country. No, communitarianism is dependent on groupthink. It's dependent on group pressure. It's dependent on scorning you, mocking you, shaming you, embarrassing you. You're a tinfoil hat. That doesn't hurt anymore, you know. I want stock in the tinfoil companies, actually. There should be a lot of hats getting made. So, okay, I'm not getting off the topic either. Don't think I'm slipping off topic, because I'm not. This is all part of the scenic byway. So, you go to your visioning meeting, you're going to be Delphied there. The facilitators of those meetings are trained to run these meetings. They are trained. They get degrees. There are actual degrees you can get in facilitating meetings, and they teach you how to Delphi a group of people. You will never know unless you disagree with this plan that you're being Delphied, because it all sounds so good. And you come into your little tables. They do it a lot of times in a kindergarten. You're at a little chair, a little table. You feel like you're back in little child days. You've got your crayon, you've got your gold stars, and you've got a map of town. And you're crayoning all over it, saying, I'd like to see this right here over where Joe's Pharmacy has existed for the last 100 years. Joe's not there. He didn't get invited. Probably neither did you. You either saw the tiny 2-line ad in the paper the day of the meeting, or you didn't see it. And the people who are there are government employees, board and commission appointees, consultants themselves voting with their clickers. I love this plan. It's making me hundreds of thousands of dollars. Why wouldn't I love it? Okay, this is what it looks like. Any real citizens who happen to stumble into that meeting are going to be marginalized, slimed, mocked, and laughed at. And the new thing, the latest wrinkle, is they're going to bring in men with guns to the meetings. They call them cops. That's right. They're bringing in police officers to the meetings now, because all of us around the world and around this nation are waking up and speaking out. And they're afraid that we're going to say something. Here we are, dressed in our suits, got a mic. I've been running down an aisle with a police officer after me saying, what's the matter? Are you afraid I'm going to say something? You want to arrest me because I'm going to speak out in a public meeting? That's it. Okay, no dissent. I don't know what freedom means to you, but isn't it in our First Amendment? Freedom of speech. No dissent. What is the difference between this and China? You want to speak out, you're going to end up dead or in jail or escaping through the U.S. Embassy in the dead of night when you're blind, stumbling down the street, hoping that your brother, who hasn't been able to get out, is not going to be arrested and kept in jail for the rest of his life. No dissent. We lose that. Where are we? What do we have? Now, for those of you who think I'm making this up, I want you to see this. You probably can't see it, but this is available on Amazon for $3. You can get it. It's called Rescue Mission, Planet Earth, a children's edition of Agenda 21. Okay? It's really a charming little piece of art here. It was done by the Children of the World and Boutros Ghali, Secretary General of the United Nations. Yes, Rescue Mission, a children's edition of Agenda 21. Now, there's a little piece in here. It says, the planet groans every time it registers another birth. Yeah, isn't that great? There's a little workbook in here, too, for kids. It says, turning Agenda 21 into action is a big challenge for us all. Thousands of people in the United Nations and in governments are working on it. This booklet will show parents and educators how children can start to be a part of this work. That's right. They're Delphiying your kids. This is outcome-based education. That's what it looks like. When you're being trained and you're not being taught, when you're being trained to be a good citizen, to go along, to get along, to not raise your head, to not speak out, to not make problems. So, what's this about? What's it really about? Well, I'll tell you what the green mask is. I'll tell you what they say it's about. The idea is that those of us out in the rural areas and the suburbs, which is where you live, I'll tell you, I don't care how big your biggest town is, you're in sprawl. If you're on more than about 5,000 square feet in a house, you're in sprawl. Isn't that an ugly word? Sprawl. Okay, it costs too much to bring public transportation out to you. We're just not going to bother with that. We're going to bring you into the center of cities. We're going to move you out of the rural and suburban areas and into the centers of cities, into high-density urban development. Now, how's that going to be done? One of the ways they do it is with ICLEI, the International Council on Local Environmental Initiatives. That's what they used to call it, but now they call it Local Governments for Sustainability, because they don't want you to know that they're international. But we do know, it's too late, okay? It is a non-governmental organization made up of elected officials and nonprofits. Now, your elected officials won't tell you that they're members of this. In fact, up until recently, you've never heard of ICLEI. If you do know about it, you didn't even know that your city was a member. It's a stealth organization. It was created in 1990, prior to Agenda 21, to implement Agenda 21 worldwide. That was the purpose of creating this organization. It says it represents 600 million people. 600 million people, twice the size, twice the number of people in the United States. Worldwide, 70 countries, okay? Who are the members here? Keene, Nashua, Portsmouth, Wolfboro, Guilford, Plymouth, Rochester, Southwest Regional Planning Commission, and that is not at all unusual, and Dover. Getting hot in here, isn't it? The International Council on Local Environmental Initiatives is a policy and legislative group, a non-governmental group that is measuring and monitoring your greenhouse gas emissions for a fee. This is what they do. And you know what? If you can't afford the fee, they'll give it to you because they want you to have it. Because that's about measuring you. Inventory and control, right? Remember? Inventory and control. They're inventorying you. Your use of energy, and I guess, I don't know, your farts or something. It's what you take in and what goes out. They're monitoring and measuring cities across the United States. Now, most of the population in the United States is in an ICLEI city. New York City is an ICLEI city. San Francisco is an ICLEI city. Los Angeles is an ICLEI city. Chicago is an ICLEI city. Over 600 cities in the United States are members of the International Council of Local Environmental Initiatives. Now, it's a non-governmental organization made up of elected officials. Now, I know you guys have a, open meeting laws, right? Don't you, here in New Hampshire? Just like we do in California, open meeting laws. If your government's going to have a meeting, they're going to put the notice up and tell you about it. Now, they might put it up at 5 p.m. on Friday for a Monday morning 8 a.m. meeting, but they have to do that. But ICLEI is a non-governmental organization made up of elected officials who will not tell you they're going to the meetings, you will not even know it exists, you don't know where it goes, where it happens, you don't know what their policies are, their goals, you don't know what's going on, you don't know where they meet or anything. And you didn't even know that Dover was a member until recently, if you know. Now, here's something else. When Obama was running the last time, he committed us. As I was joking the other day, I don't think he committed himself and Michelle and the kids, but he did commit us to reducing our greenhouse gas emissions 80% below 1990 levels by the year 2050. 2050, right? 80%. Okay, so you think about this stuff. You think 80% below 1990 levels by the year 2050. Doesn't that sound like an awful lot? So you think to yourself, well, what do we do? You know, what do you do to expel greenhouse gas emissions? It's an industry, usually, right? It takes a lot of energy to produce stuff. So if you're going to cut your emissions by 80% below 1990 levels, what year were we releasing that many greenhouse gas emissions? What year? Yeah, what year? So I went and I got a chart and I looked, 80% below 1990. 1934 was the year that we were releasing 80% of 1990 levels in greenhouse gas emissions. So I looked at that, I said, wow, that was a good year. We were doing real good in 1934. Bottom of the Depression, right? So then I said, well, wait a sec, because I know we have a lot more people in the United States now than we did in 1934. So if you're going to look at it on a per capita basis, you're going to be back in the 1880s with your horse and buggy, except you're not going to have your horse because you got too many greenhouse gas emissions coming out there. So this is what it's about. It's a secret, stealth organization that is based on consensus, communitarianism. Now, when you know that our nation did not sign on to Kyoto, right? We didn't agree to the Kyoto Treaty, right? But that did not stop 1,055 United States mayors from agreeing to it. With the mayors, this is through ICLEI, the Mayor's Climate Protection Center, all right? There's 9 of those cities in New Hampshire, and a lot of them are ICLEI cities: Concord, Dover, Hanover, Keene, Lebanon, Manchester, Nashua, Portsmouth, and Rochester. Okay, now what is Kyoto? Anti-sprawl, that's where you live. Smart growth, pro-smart growth, and pro-carbon trading. Yep, that's been signed on to by your town. Now, one other thing that ICLEI did was they put out this book. This is just the cover, obviously. It's heavy. This is called the Local Agenda 21 Planning Guide. Now, ICLEI will tell you they have nothing to do with the United Nations. That's a lie. This was put together, of course, ICLEI comes out of the United Nations. This was put together by ICLEI and the United Nations, published by the United Nations. Excuse me. And you'll find this in your planning department. I always say grab the planners and hold them so they can't run and take this out before you go and look. If you're a county supervisor or a city councilor, I suggest you go to the planning department and take a look and see these books on the shelves there. This is the Local Agenda 21 Planning Guide. It teaches them how to do visioning on you. It teaches them. Now, what's the goal? Using that green mask of environmental concern, the 2 parts of Agenda 21 are imposed. And that is smart growth, which is moving populations into concentrated city centers and restricting mobility, where we can be more easily monitored, controlled, and surveilled. And the other part, the wildlands. And that's getting people out of rural areas and suburban areas, blocking their access to wilderness, roads, and resources, and shifting land ownership from private to public. This is what this is about, is taking away our private land ownership. You know, I don't know if you guys are farmers out here. I speak to a lot of farmers around the nation. And they say, you know, Rosa, the people in the cities have no idea what it takes to produce food. And I fly back and forth across the country all the time, and I look down a lot. And what do I see? Farms. A lot of farms. I see a lot of rural areas. I see that most of this country is agricultural. Most of this country is not big cities. People in big cities can believe that there is no more farmland and that there is no more open land because they don't know. So, I told you, by 2002, Growing Smart, legislative guidebook with model statutes for planning and the management of change, was in every single planning department, every university, and every college in the entire United States. If you want to be, you want to be a planner, you want to study to be a planner, you are going to be reading this book. This book is full of model statutes. You know, if you're on council or you're on a supervisor or you're in the legislature and you think those statutes that come up before you have been written by your staff, no. A lot of that stuff comes out of this book. These are model statutes, statutes that have been used and vetted around the country, and they tell you right in that book how to take people's property and not pay for it. How to take your property rights without paying you. This is your country. Now you know about zoning, right? You know about zoning. Everybody knows about zoning. Your C2, your ag, your industrial, you got, residential, rural, whatever you got, okay? You know about that. But did you know that you have a comprehensive plan? You have a master plan for your town or your county or whatever. Now that takes precedence over your zoning. That is sort of the wish list, the design for your municipality. And if your zoning doesn't match up with it, it has to be brought into compliance with it. It takes precedence over your zoning. This is really, really important, especially when you're talking about that scenic corridor, that scenic byway. Okay? Now, the federal and state transportation dollars are directed through your metropolitan planning organizations, and that's your regional, what do they call them, your regional planning commissions. You got 9 regional planning commissions here in New Hampshire. Now don't get bored here. Stay with me. This is important. They are counting on you to be bored, to think this is boring, to not be able to understand this. This is no rocket science, man. I'll tell you what, this stuff is so simple and so basic, and they're afraid you're going to understand it. So you're going to turn the tables on them, and you're going to get it. Right now, here's how it works. It's about the money. If you want those federal and state transportation tax dollars, they come through your metropolitan planning organization, your 9 regional planning commissions here in New Hampshire. That money is directed. It's directed. And for the first time, you've got transportation and housing linked. Linked. That means that your transportation tax dollars can be used to pay for smart growth. Now, what's smart growth? Smart growth is high density, usually transit-oriented development. Transit-oriented development, what is that? It's development that's oriented to transit, right? But the transit may not actually exist. So what's it look like? It looks like ground floor retail, 12 feet high, built right to the edge of the sidewalk. Right above it, 2, 3, or more stories of condos or apartments on top of that. Around the back, there's an alley with access for 1 car or less per unit. Out there in front, you got your bike lane. You got 1 lane because you got traffic calming. You might have had 4 lanes before, but now you got 1 lane. You got a median. And on the other side of the street, you got the same thing. You may have a train somewhere or the promise of a train that you'll be paying for a long time. You may be in a transit area, which means that you're a transit hub, which means that you may be able to avoid, not you, oh no, not you, but some developer, some big favored developer who's getting your transportation tax dollars as a subsidy, may be able to avoid those pesky environmental impact reports that have to be done, because just by virtue of the fact that they have lopped off the parking for that building and situated it somewhere near transit or the hope or thought of transit, they may not have to comply with those pesky requirements for environmental impact reports. What does that mean? Does that give them a step up, a lift up, a head up, a winner versus loser position against everybody else who does have to comply with those requirements? And then, since we know that a lot of that stuff is bankrupt, vacant, you go and look through the windows on those things and the floor isn't even built out. You're looking at dirt in there. You're looking at raw framing. You're looking at vacancies upstairs. You're looking at high risk. You're looking at you subsidizing that with a public-private partnership, right? Okay, what does that mean? It means that you, the public, take the risk, and the developer gets the profit. Not bad, huh? Pretty good. So, money is directed. Your transportation tax dollars, often your property tax dollars, are directed to subsidizing housing and mixed use that you see in your downtown areas. And I don't care how small your town is, you're going to have this kind of thing. This is smart growth, and it's all over the country. And this is the preferred design style for Agenda 21, sustainable development. Okay? So, you want money? You build smart growth with a visioning project first, because they need your opinion, because they can't do it without the community's involvement, because that's what it's about. Hey, it was your idea. What do you mean you don't like it? You were in there with your clicker. You said you liked it, right? Now, a Granite State Future, that's what it is. A Granite State Future. 70 counties, 1.3 million people. That's pretty much all the people in New Hampshire, isn't it? You got your HUD grant, $3.4 million for sustainable community initiatives. What's that? It's a planning grant. That's how they get you. They give you the money for a planning grant, and you better, oh, what do you mean you want single-family residences? Are you kidding me? Didn't you take the money? Do you want that transportation money? You're going to build smart growth, and you're going to subsidize it because it doesn't pencil out and people don't want to live in it. But that shouldn't worry you, because their tax dollars are going to be subsidizing it. So what's it look like? It looks like climate action plans. You're going to see that. Complete streets and transit villages. I'm going to show you something. This is from the Marin County General Plan. Marin County, this is the cover of it. You don't need to see this too well. This is the cover of the Marin County Master Plan, General Plan, right? Just like yours. Right inside. Right inside. See that? This is not unusual. You see it in Los Angeles, all over the United States. Look through your general plan. Have you read it? I bet you haven't. Now let's get to the Dover Scenic Byway, shall we? It's our corridor management plan, right? Don't look at your papers. Look at me. This is where it's at. Okay, so think about it. Right, you got your clickers, don't you? Okay, now, I'm not Delphine you. This is called Hearing the Truth. Some guy said to me, he happened to be the director of the Office of Sustainability in Memphis. I gave a speech there, and he said, after the end of it, I felt sorry for him because, of course, I did, use him a lot in the speech. And afterwards, he got up, and he was a pretty good sport. Hey, people are nice, These are people just like us, these people. He said, this is all your opinion. He said, you're entitled to your opinion. I said, you know what? I said, can you agree that I have white hair and you have brown hair? And he said, yes. I said, that is called objective reality. We're talking about objective reality here. We are not talking about my opinion. I have an opinion about you. You have an opinion about me. That has no place in this room. We are talking about reality here. And this is what we're going to talk about right now with the corridor management plan. So here goes. It's 1/4 of a mile wide on either side of your road. Just think about that. Now, for those of you who are geographically challenged or something, let me assist you with that. That is 1,320 feet from the edge of pavement out into your property. Well, let me just help you a little bit more with that. You know what an acre looks like roughly? It's roughly 200 by 200 square. Now think about this. It's 6 acres deep from the edge of pavement on both sides. Kind of big. That's a corridor. We need to manage it. All right? Now, it inventories. This is straight out of it. What is this thing? This is it. Right here. I've got it in my hand. I marked it up. And I'll tell you what it says here. It's the corridor management plan. It inventories and sets strategies that support the byway designation. Now think about that for a second, okay? These are land use ordinances. Now, they tell you they're not. They tell you this is not going to impact your local land use. That's what they tell you right away, right up front. Oh,